paragraph, page 884. 884. Okay, and our last headword was disobey, new word type of lesson. Okay, so let's start with revision. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. First question. What do we mean when we say that a chicken pecks the ground? What do we mean when we say that a chicken pecks the ground? When we say
When we
that
say
a chicken
a chicken
pecks the ground,
hits the
we
ground,
mean that
it means
it
that
picks up food
it picks up food
from the ground
from the ground
with its beak.
with its beak.
Very good. What do we call the block of hard clay that are commonly used to make buildings? What do we call the blocks of hard clay that are commonly used to make buildings? We call
We
the
call
block of
block
hard clay
clay
that are commonly
are
used
commonly
to
used
make buildings
to make buildings
bricks.
bricks.
Very good. What else can we make from clay? What else can we make from clay? We can make
We
plates,
can make plates,
cups,
cups,
etc.
etc.
from clay.
from clay.
Very good. Why do the police sometimes block a road? Why do the police sometimes block a road? The police
The
sometimes
police sometimes
block a road
broke the road
because
because
there's an accident.
there's an accident.
Very good. What is cream and where does it come from? What is cream and where does it come from? Cream
Cream,
is the fatty part
happy part
of milk
of
or
milk
anything
or
which
anything
looks
which
or
looks
feels similar
or
to it.
similar to it.
Very good. Do you believe it's worth spending money on expensive face creams? Do you believe it's worth spending money on expensive face creams? Yes or no?
No,
I don't believe
I don't
it's
believe
worth spending
it was spending
money on
money on
expensive face
expensive.
creams. Where do you spring out of bed in the morning? Do you spring out of bed in the morning? Yes or no?
No,
I don't
I
spring
don't
out of
spring
bed
of bed
in the morning.
in the morning.
Very good. What are the three forms of spring? What are the three forms of spring? The three
The
forms
three
of
forms
spring
of
are
spring
spring,
are spring
sprang, sprung.
from.
Can you feel the springs inside the mattress on your bed? Can you feel the springs inside the mattress on your bed? Yes or no?
No,
I can't feel
can
the
feel
springs
the springs
inside the mattress
inside the
on
mattress
my bed.
on my bed.
Very good. Are cats well known for having a curious nature? Are cats well known for having a curious nature? Yes,
Yes,
cats are well
cats
known
are known
for having
for
a
having
curious
a
nature.
curious nature.
Where if you heard a curious noise outside your room in the middle of the night, would you stay in bed or go out and investigate? If you heard a curious noise outside your room in the middle of the night, would you stay in bed or go and investigate? If I heard
If I
a
heard
curious noise
a curious noise
outside my
out of
room
my room
in the middle of the
in the
night,
middle of the night,
I'd
I'd
go and investigate.
go and investigate.
What do we call a police officer who investigates crime? What do we call a police officer who investigates crimes? We call a
Because
police
a
officer
police
who
officer
investigates
who investigates
crimes, a
crimes,
detective.
a detective.
Wait, are you keen on sport? Are you keen on sport? Yes or no?
No,
I'm not keen on
I'm
sport.
keen on sports.
Wait, are young children nearly always keen to learn new things? Are young children nearly always keen to learn new things? Yes, young
Yes,
children
young children
are nearly always
are always
keen to learn
keen to learn
new things.
new things.
Very good. Okay, next. About how many extra articles of clothing would you say the average person wore on a cold winter's day? About how many extra articles of clothing would you say the average person wore on a cold winter's day? I'd say
I'd say
the average person
the average person
wore
wore
two extra articles
extra
of
articles
clothing
or moving on
of clothing
of clothing
on a cold winter's
on the
day.
cold winter's day.
Winter's day.
Winter's day.
Very good. Okay. Next, what kind of people write articles in newspapers? What kind of article or people write articles in newspapers? The kind of people
The kind of people
who write
who
articles
articles
in newspapers
in newspapers,
are professional writers
professional writers,
or people
or
who
people
have special
with
knowledge
special knowledge
of particular subjects.
particular subject.
Very good. Okay. Next. If you work as a journalist, what kind of articles would you like to write? If you work as a journalist, what kind of articles would you like to write? If I work
I work
as a journalist,
a journalist.
I'd like to write
I'd like to write
about.
about interesting articles.
Very good. Okay. What do we mean when we say that someone behaves boldly? What do we mean if we say someone behaves boldly? When we say
When we say
that someone
that someone
behaves boldly,
is boldly,
we mean that
it means that
they behave
they
courageously
behave gracefully
or confidently
or confidently
and without fear.
and without fear.
Where do you think clothes in bold colors suit you? Do you think clothes in bold colors suit you? Yes or no?
Oh, no,
I don't think
I don't think
clothes in
clothes
bold color
in bold color
suits me.
suit me.
What do we sometimes type a word in a document in bold? Why do we sometimes type a word in a document in bold? We sometimes
Sometimes
type
type
a word
a word
in a document
in the document
in bold
in
so
bold
that
so that
the word
the word
is more noticeable
more noticeable
on the page.
on the page.
Where get okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? You're striking your
Just
pen
striking your pen
on the table.
on the table.
Where if you were struck by lightning and survived, would the experience change the way you felt about your life? If you were struck by lightning and survived, would the experience change the way you felt about your life? Yes or no?
Yes,
If I were
if I were
struck by lightning
struck by lightning,
and survive,
survive
the experience
the experience
would change the way
is the way
I felt
I felt
about my life.
about my life.
Very good about my life. Very good. Okay, next. If you were on your way to a friend's birthday party and it suddenly struck you that you'd forgotten their present, would you go back and get it or would you just go without it? Okay. If you were on your way to a friend's birthday party and it suddenly struck you that you'd forgotten their present, would you go back and get it or would you go without it? If I were
If I were
on my way
on my way
to a friend's
to a friend's
birthday party
birthday party
and it suddenly
and it
struck
suddenly
me
struck me
that I'd forgotten
that I'd forgotten
their present,
their present,
I'd
I'd
go back and get
go
it.
back and get it.
Very good. If we describe a building as striking, what do we mean? If we describe a building as striking, what do we mean? If we describe
If we
a
describe
building
a building
as striking,
striking,
we mean that
it means that
it is interesting
it is interesting
and attracts
and attracts
our attention
our attention
because it looks
because it looks
different
different
from other buildings.
other buildings
From other buildings.
from other buildings.
Very good. Okay, next. Do you think that people who shoplift should be imprisoned? Do you think people who shoplift should be imprisoned? Yes or no?
Yes,
I think people
I think
who
people
shoplift
shoplift
should be imprisoned.
should be imprisoned.
Very good. Okay. If there's is there a cure for the common cold? Is there a cure for the common cold? Yes or no?
Yes,
There's a cure
there's a cure
for the common cold.
called
For the common cold.
on the common cold.
Where do you usually take a cold remedy to make you feel better when you have a cold? Do you usually take a cold remedy to make you feel better when you have a cold? Yes or no?
Yes,
I usually
I usually
take a cold
take
remedy
cold remedy
to make me feel
to
better
make me feel better
when I have a cold.
when cold.
Very good. What type of aircraft take off vertically? What type of aircraft take off vertically? Helicopters
helicopters,
and certain
and
special
such
airplanes
airplanes
take off
take
vertically.
radically,
Take off vertically.
take off radically.
Very good. Okay. Why do some people prefer to stay in woodwork rather than paint it? Why do some people prefer to stay in woodwork rather than paint it? Some people
Some people
prefer to stay in
prefer to stay
woodwork
woodwork
rather than paint it
rather than paint it
because the woodwork
because the woodwork
looks more natural
more natural.
if it is stained.
It is stained.
Very good. If you discovered an ink stain on an article of clothing, how would you remove it? If you discovered an ink stain in an article of clothing, how would you remove it? If I discovered
I discover
an ink stain
an instinct
on an article
article
of clothing,
of
I
clothing.
try to remove it
I could try to remove it
by washing.
by washing.
Very good. Okay, next. What does the word creep mean? What does the word creep mean? The word
The
creep
word
means
it means
to move forward
to move forward
very slowly
very slowly,
or to move slowly
but to move slowly
and quietly
and quietly
so that
so that
nobody hears you.
nobody hears you.
Very good. Okay, give me an example of each. Give me an example of each, please. The traffic was
The
creeping
traffic was creeping
along very
around very
slowly
slowly,
owing to the fact
owing to the fact
that several roads
that several roads
has been blocked
been blocked
by the police.
by the police.
Very good. Elizabeth crept
Quick
into the room
into the
so
room
as not to wake
so as not to wake
the baby.
the baby.
Very good. Okay, what does the word passage mean? What does the word passage mean? The word
The word
passage mean
passage means
a long narrow space,
narrow space,
generally between two
generally
buildings
between two buildings
or inside a building,
like a building,
like a corridor.
like a corridor.
It can also mean
It can also
a
mean
short extract
a short extract
from a speech
from a speech
or a piece of
or
writing.
of writing.
Piece of writing. Very good. What am I pretending to do? What am I pretending to do? You're pretending
You're
to
pretending
steer a car.
hard
To steer a car.
to steal a car.
Very good. And what do we call the thing that I'm pretending to hold? And what do we call the thing that I'm pretending to hold? We call the thing
We call a fade.
you're pretending to
We are
hold
pretending to hold
a steering wheel.
steering wheel.
Very good. Okay. What does the word aside mean? What does the word aside mean? The word
The word
aside mean
that means
on one side
one side,
or to one side.
on one side.
To one side. Very good. Okay. Do you put money aside each month to save for any special purpose? Do you put money aside each month to save for any special purpose? Yes or no?
Yes,
I put money
I
aside.
one side.
I put money
I put
aside
money aside
each month
each
to
month
save
to save
for some special
for
purpose.
some special purpose.
Very good. Okay, next. During an evening out with friends, would you have to take somebody aside from the rest of the group if you wanted to speak to them in private? During an evening out with friends, would you have to take somebody aside from the rest of the group if you wanted to speak to them in private?
Yes,
During an evening
bring a
out
evening out
with friends,
with
I'd
partners.
have to take
I just have to take
somebody aside
aside
from the rest of the group
rest of the group.
if I wanted
I wanted
to speak to them
to speak to them
in private.
in private.
Very good. Okay. Do naughty children at primary school always obey instructions that their teachers give them? Uh-huh. So, do naughty children at primary school always obey instructions that their teacher give them? No.
No,
Naughty children
not the children.
at primary school
Primary Go.
don't always
Not
obey
always obey
instructions that their
instructions
teachers
that their
give
teachers
them.
give
They
them.
sometimes
Sometimes
disobey them.
obey them.
Very good again. That's the end of our revision. Let's have new word. Okay, repeat. Stick, stuck, stuck.
Stick, stuck, stuck.
Pin,
Thin,
drawing pin.
drawing pen.
Very good. Opposition.
Opposition.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word stick is a verb, which means to attach or to put something somewhere. The three forms of stick are stick, stuck, stuck. For example, we have to stick a stamp on an envelope before we can post it. Okay. We stick notices on a notice board by using a drawing pin. Okay. Next, when we say that somebody sticks to a plan, we mean that they refuse to change their plans even when the situation is difficult or there is opposition to their ideas. Okay. The word pin is a noun. It is a thin piece of tough, a stiff wire with a pointed end that you can stick through two things to attach them together. For example, we stick notices on a notice board by using a drawing pin. Okay, drawing pin is a noun. Okay, it is a short, sharp pin with flat, round top used especially for putting up notices. Okay, when we say opposition, it is a noun of the verb oppose. It means a strong disagreement. Opposition. Okay, very good. Next, for example, my friend and I had a debate. She left me with a strong opposition of my ideas. Okay,
Okay.
now let's practice. What do we have to stick on an envelope before we can post it? What do we have to stick on an envelope before we can post it? We have to stick
We have to
a
stick
stamp
a stamp
on an envelope
on an envelope
before we can post it.
before we can post it.
Ragged, what do tailors use to fasten pieces of cloth together while they're sewing? What do tailors use to fasten pieces of cloth together while they're sewing? Tailors use
Tailors
pins
use
to
pins
fasten
to
pieces
fasten
of
pieces
cloth together
of clothes
while
together
they're sewing.
while they are sewing.
Ragged, how do we stick notices on a notice board? How do we stick notices on a notice board? We stick
We
notices
stick
on a
notices
notice board
on a
by
board
using a
by
drawing
using
pin.
a drawing pen.
Ragged, what are the three forms of stick? What are the three forms of stick? The three
The
forms
three
of
forms
stick
stick
are stick,
are
stuck,
stick,
stuck.
stuck.
Ragged, what do we mean when we say that somebody sticks to a plan? What do we mean when we say that somebody sticks to a plan? When we say
When we
that
say
somebody
that somebody
sticks to a plan,
sticks to a
we
plan,
mean that
we mean
they
that
refuse
they
to
refuse
change their plan
to change their plan
even when the
even
situation
when the situation
is difficult
is
or
difficult.
there is opposition
There's
to
opposition
their ideas.
to their ideas.
Where we going to connect, repeat, border.
Order,
Very good. Okay, listen. The word border is a noun. It is a line that separates one country from another country. For example, there's a border between Scotland and England. Along the borders of a field, we find a hedge or a fence. Let's practice. Are the police allowed to follow a criminal across the borders of their own country into another country? Are the police allowed to follow a criminal across the borders of their own country into another country? No. The
no,
police
the police
aren't allowed
allowed
to follow a criminal
a criminal
across the borders
across the
of
borders
their own country
in our country
into another country.
into another country.
Very good. Which countries does your country share border with? Which countries does your country share border with? My country
My country
doesn't share
doesn't share
a border
a border
with any country.
with any country.
Okay, very good. Okay, next. What do we generally find along the borders of a field? What do we generally find along the borders of a field? We generally find
We generally find
a hedge
a hedge
or a fence. or a
Offense
fence along the borders
on the borders
of a field.
of field
Very good. Next, repeat pattern.
pattern.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word pattern is a noun. It means a design made from repeated lines, shapes, or colors on a surface. For example, some people wear plain clothes, some wear clothes with a pattern. Another meaning of the word pattern is a regular and repeated way in which something is done or happens. For example, the parents are responsible for setting the correct way of how its kids behave, or the parents are responsible for setting the correct patterns of their kids' behavior. Let's practice. Do you prefer plain clothes or clothes with patterns on them? Do you prefer plain clothes or clothes with patterns on them? I prefer,
I prefer
what do you prefer? Plain clothes
paint clothes
than clothes
than clothes
with patterns on
with
them.
pattern on them.
Very good. Who do you think should be more responsible for setting the correct patterns of behavior for children? Parents or teachers? Who do you think should be more responsible for setting the correct patterns of behavior for children? Parents or teachers? I think
As
parents
parents
should be more
should be more
responsible
responsible
for setting
for
the
setting
correct
the
patterns of
patterns
behavior
behavior
for children.
on children.
Very good. Okay, now let's move on to reading.
Okay,
Okay, so our reading is at stage 9, paragraph page 792. Last headword was post, doorpost, goal. Okay, start with the third question. What are the three forms of dig?
okay,
792. Third question. What are the three forms of dig?